Hello and welcome to lesson 19 of my YouTube channel. And this lesson, I'm going to deal with two scales. Okay. You can, in the last lesson, you learned how to use your fingers. So you can use fingers or the pick to play this. Okay. Depends on which direction you want to go. You want to be a classical player, then you'll have to learn to play the scales using your fingers. If you want to be an acoustic guitar player, then you can use the pick or your fingers. Okay. As you can see, I'm holding a nylon string guitar. I could have held an electric guitar, I could have held an acoustic guitar, but at the beginning, before you go deep into the genres of playing guitar, you can play the same basic concepts on either of the three guitars. What will change is the tone and the feel. But a D chord is a D chord on the electric guitar, on the nylon string guitar, on the acoustic guitar. So why not, let the guitar never be a barrier. Of course, you can't learn this on a bass guitar. But that said, if you have a bass guitar at home, you can still learn scales, at least, in some way. But yes, but the bass guitar should not be confused with this guitar. You can use an acoustic, nylon, or an electric to learn all of the first 25-30 lessons that I'm sending. In fact, even more than that actually. Okay, so here goes. So let the guitar not be a restriction for you. Okay, so what I want to show you today is that when you play a scale, it has a family of chords. Okay, so for example, if this is the C major scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I didn't sing it, I'll sing it. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Then each of the notes has a representative chord. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Do, ti, la, sol, fa, mi, re, do. Or, so what I did was, for every note, I have given it a chord name. So the first note is C, and it is represented by C major chord. The second note is D, it's represented by D minor chord. The third note is E, and it's represented by E minor chord. The fourth note is F, which is represented by F major chord. Then the fifth note is G, and it's represented by G chord. Then the sixth note is A, and it's represented by A minor chord. The seventh note is B, and it's represented by what we call a B minor flat 5. Sorry, excuse me. Okay, it looks like this. But generally, for beginners, we don't recommend playing diminished chords because generally the way diminished chords are arranged on the guitar, you can't play all 6 strings or 5 strings. You sometimes have to omit playing the first string. So we give a simpler chord instead of B diminished. We ask to play G7. And just to let you know that all the notes of B minor flat 5 or B half diminished are present in G7. And then you end with C. Okay, so you have C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, B diminished or G7, B diminished or G7, and C. Then you go backwards. C, B diminished or G7, or A minor, or G, or F, or E minor, or D minor, C. Okay, so A3 was the C note, and A3 plus D2 plus B1 and all the strings from the 5th string to the 1st string strum is C major chord. If you don't get this, stop, rewind, push it back and listen again. Okay? Otherwise, if I keep repeating the instruction, it will get boring for people who want to go through this video fast. So A3 is C, and A3 plus D2 plus B1 and the G and E open strings form the C chord. Then you have the D string open, which is D, and you keep that D string open, follow it up with middle finger on G2, first finger on E1 and third finger on B3, and you get the D minor chord. So you have C for the C note and D minor for the D note. And you may notice whenever I say a major chord, I never say C major, because when you say C, it is understood as C major. You don't have to say C major, but when you play a minor chord, you have to say minor. So C major for C and D minor for D. Now comes the third note, which is D2. That D2 is the verbal tab telling you where to press. And the name of the note is E. Just like my name is Abhishek, but I'm also a human. This is the hand, and it is also the hand of Abhishek. So same way, this is D2, the location, but the note name is E. Same way, this is A3, which is the location of the note name C. Then D is D because it's an open string. Then D2 is the location on which you will find E. Okay, so D, all these verbal tabs just tell you where to press the note. The name of the note is something else. Okay, so A3, D, D2 becomes C, D, E in note names. And E is represented by E minor chord. Okay, then after D2, you go to D3, which is the note F. And you play F like this. Okay, so now how to play E minor chord? It's the easiest chord according to me on guitar. You put your middle finger on A2, ring finger on D2 and strum all 6 strings. You can just take a pick also and go, doesn't matter. Or you can take your thumb and go all across, or you can do the technique I showed you, thumb, 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 index, middle, third. Okay, then F is basically, this becomes a little tough to play because you have to put your first finger on E1 and B1, then middle finger on G2 and third finger on D3. This is the most simplest way you can play it. What will get difficult is this. Because you have to press the first fret. I tend to use the outside side of my finger. Okay, the outer ridge. I press it like this. And then I practice not keeping this finger very close to the first finger. I bring it out like this. Okay, and then you play the G2 note and then you put your third finger here, D3. Eventually, this third finger goes up, this little finger comes here and you can play F like this, or you can bring it all the way up and play the bar. But I will explain that in another lesson. For now, use the simplest form, which is E1 plus B1 with the same finger, G2, and make sure your finger doesn't press like this. It should press like this. And then third finger here. F. So C note, C chord, D note, D minor chord, E note, E minor chord, D3, F note, F major chord, G note, G major chord. So people teach G in many ways. They teach it like this, they teach it like this, and I play it like this. I get the most full sound like this. Another thing, you've learned F. So if you take one full step forward, this is a half step, you take one full step forward and this is also G. So when I initially started playing, I could not play this G. So I used to just play this G. And that was easier for me. So you never know, even though this is a harder chord to play, to shift was easier for me. So anyways, so G is basically middle finger on low E3, first finger on A2, third finger on B3 and little finger on high E3. And you just strum all the 6 strings, or you take a pick and go all the 6 strings. So you have C note, C major chord, D note, D minor chord, E note, E minor chord, F note, F major chord, G note, G major chord, A note, A minor chord, B note, A minor chord, I forgot. So A minor chord, just like you put your 2 fingers on E minor, you bring them down by 1 string. So now your middle finger is on D2 and third finger is on G2. And put your first finger on B1 and play all the strings from the 5th string to the 1st. Okay, and you get the A minor chord. And it's very nice to shift from E minor to A minor. See, it sounds so nice. Then, I'm not going to teach you B diminished. I'll show you the position once like this, or B half diminished, whatever. I'm going to just show you G7. G7 is the only chord that does not have the root name B. Okay, but you can play 8-4-B, which is putting your third finger on low E3, middle finger on A2 and first finger on E1, and you play all the 6 strings. Okay, so C chord, C note, C major chord, D note, D minor chord, E note, E minor chord, F note, F major chord, G note, G major chord, A note, A minor chord, B note, G7 chord, and C. So one time you can go do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Now, like I said, A3 is the verbal tab. Name of the location is called C, and the sound of it is do. Okay, do. So do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C, A3, D, D2, D3, G, G2, B, B1. You have to start getting used to knowing it in all these three ways. Okay, B1, B, G2, G, D3, D2, D, A3, C, B, A, G, F, E, D, C, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. So just like you did the ascending and descending of the scale, you should do the ascending and descending of the chord. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. I'll do that again. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. I said I'll teach two scales, but this video is already about 11 and a half minutes. So I will teach you the next scale in the next video. But if you get just this much, then you're sorted. And if you play 2 octaves of the scale, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, I'm not going to sing this because it's hard on the voice, but I'll just say the notes. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Then again, for this B3, which is again D, you can play D minor. For this E, you can play E minor. For this F, you can play F major. For this G, you can play G major. For this A, you can play A minor. And for this B, you can play G7. And then again for this C, you can play C. So a beautiful thing that you can do is, you can just make any melody you want and land on any one of the notes. And I landed on the E3 note, which is a G, and I play the G chord. It sounds so nice. You can follow the note with a chord, or you can play the chord instead of the note. So, sorry about that. Listen again. Or, right? You can then from here you can go up to any other note. Now this is F. So you have or so basically whatever note you end on, you can play the chord of that. And just you can sit and make as many melodies as you want without knowing any songs on this planet and still sound really awesome on the guitar. Try this, give me your feedback on how you like this lesson.